All right, everyone. Thank you for coming to this edition of Financial Fridays with the Library System of Bradford County and Visions Federal Credit Union. This week, our financial guru, Mr. Matt, is going to talk to us about the all-important budgeting, what it means, and why it's so important for you. If you have any questions during the presentation, you're probably fine to jump in and ask, but if you would prefer, you can put it in the chats and Matt will double check or I will alert him to questions. If you're more comfortable, you can save them to the end. We will do a question and answer session at the end. Mr. Matt, are you ready to go?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for joining us. It's always a pleasure to do this. Today, we're going to be talking about budgeting, which is really so important. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about because it truly is the foundation of financial wellness, and having a working budget can give so much peace of mind and avoid so many headaches down the line if your budget is really intact and working for you well. So we're really going to dive into budgeting and what that looks like. So what is budgeting? The big thing about budgets, when you're talking to people about making a budget, a lot of times it's that dreaded tedious factor of it that's a bummer. But it can be fun. It depends on how you do it, how you make it. But you really want to have one, and you want to keep in mind what you're doing it for. So a lot of times you say, well, you should really make a budget. People go, oh, it's not going to look good. But it's really, that's what it's for. If it doesn't look good, that's very telling. If it looks great, that's very telling as well. Your budget is going to tell you everything that you need to know about your financial situation. And it's going to alert you and highlight things that either you can tweak to make it a little bit better, or you can capitalize on things you're already doing very well. And it can also allow you to divert different amounts of money to different things, potentially help you pay down debt faster, improve your credit. The budget really can be used for so much. So by the definition, really, it's the process of creating a plan to adequately spend your money and calculate your anticipated income and expenses. So really, when you boil it down, you just take your income and you subtract your expenses from it. And there you get your bottom line. And we're going to talk about that much more in depth later. But if you boil it down to its core, you really just want to look at how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, what am I left with? And then from there, you can decide what you really want to do. So why would you need a budget? And this is a question that I get asked all the time, because you have people who they probably monitor their accounts and just keep in check what they're spending. And that's fine. But when you're looking at your budget and why you truly need it, there's so many reasons for it. Because you can say, well, my accounts seem to be going up every month. Isn't that good? Do I really need a budget if I continually have more money left over? Well, it's great that you have more money left over, but could you have more? Is the big question. So when we're looking at financial wellness, it's really capitalizing on all the opportunities that you have. And having a budget is going to tell you where you can truly capitalize more. So it's also going to keep your accounts organized. You're going to be able to see what your cash flow is doing, what money is going where. And quite honestly, especially with the way things operate now, there are so many different types of subscriptions, so many different types of things that you're spending money on. So you might have signed up for a subscription months ago and forgot about it. And it might only be $6 or $7 every month, but if it's been going on for a year, that's not a negligible amount of money. So even if it's something that's really not damaging your budget monthly, if you're not catching it, it's just money that's going out the door for no reason. So it's really going to allow you to organize what you're spending money on, where your subscriptions are, which is a really big help. So you analyze your monthly income and expenses. As we said, it's really just that having it down on paper or in a spreadsheet that's tracking it for you to really see what's going on. And like I said before, it's going to help you find areas to save. So a big part of budget, when you first make your budget, is you're looking at these expenses and you think, is this really what I'm spending? I'm sure that I can cut back on that some more. And it will also prompt you to look for different deals in different areas where you can really get that extra step ahead. So having a budget is really going to tell you all about what you're currently doing, and then allow you to project forward into what you want to do. Because the future projections really are what make a budget a budget. You can say, all right, last month, this is exactly what I did, but is that going to translate into next month, or is that going to translate into the same month next year? We don't know. So that projection is really going to be an important part of that. So before we get really into the nitty gritty of budgets and excuse me, how to prepare one, we want to go into what is really important about budgets. And a big part of that is your daily behavior. And when we're looking at our daily behavior mixed with our finances, there's a lot of decisions that we make day to day that really impact our budget that can be done differently or approached a little bit more thoughtfully. So when we're talking about weighing wants versus needs, we're talking about financial situations. So wants, of course, are things that you would like to have, but you realistically could live without it. Whereas needs, if you didn't have it, it would cause significant hardship in your life. So a great example of this is having those tough decisions and having those tough conversations with yourself about wants and needs. Now, an example that I use a lot is I live about 20 minutes from my job. So it's about, I think, 15 miles, something like that, 10, 15 miles. I can't walk to work. I have to take the highway. I can't walk. So I need a car. There's really not public transportation. I live in a pretty rural area. So I do need a car. If I didn't have a car or a reliable source of transportation, then that would cause me hardship on my career, which would impact me from being able to make a living. So I do need a car. So a car is a need. Do I need a brand new car that costs me a lot of money? I don't. Would I like one? I would love to have a nice car, but is it a need? So we know that car is in the need section for me, but the type of car is in the want. So that's really the difficult conversation that we want to have, because you can talk yourself into really a lot of things being a need. So I need to eat on a daily basis. That's just something that we all need to do. Do I need to go out to eat all the time? No. So it's really about having those difficult conversations and really dividing those wants and needs, because while something can be in the category of a need, the subsets of those can feel like needs, but they're really wants. So we really want to ask ourselves these important questions of, do I need this now? Sorry about that. What would happen if I didn't have that? So really, anytime you're making a purchase that feels compulsive or like a want, we really want to dive into that, and can our budget afford that? Because when you start adding up all those compulsive purchases or purchases on things that are wants that aren't needs, they do add up. So we want to keep that in mind. And these aren't things that are going to absolutely break your budget all the time. And there are definitely, there's definitely a lot of room to buy wants. We want people to enjoy their life. The financial wellness aspect of this is being able to set up a plan where you're also able to be flexible enough to enjoy your life, because that's really the biggest part of this. We don't want to be too stringent where you're on a step-by-step basis that stops you from doing things that you enjoy. And that kind of comes from paying yourself first. So when we look at our budget, a big part of that is paying yourself. So this is a tough thing to really get in mind, because when you're thinking about paying yourself, you think about, well, this is money that I'm going to have. But when we're putting this into our budget, when we're looking at either retirement accounts or savings accounts, or any project that you want to do that's going to require to have a cushion of savings, you're going to want to pay into that every month. So let's say you have an emergency savings account and you want to put $50 a month into it. On your budget, that's going to show as $50 that is being spent. Even though it's going to you, we want to budget as if we don't have it anymore, because if it's an emergency fund, we want to treat it only for emergency. We don't want to touch that any time else. So we're going to act as if we don't have that anymore. So that's what paying yourself first means. Making sure that you're putting money aside for your future and planning ahead. So when we're budgeting this in, which we'll see later when we're going over some of the factors of a budget, you're going to see savings, you're going to see retirement accounts, things like that, because that's not money that we're going to still have because it's for later. So when we're thinking about paying ourselves first, pretend that's money that we just spent on something else, because we'll use that down the line. And we also want to be smart about, along with weighing wants and needs, we want to be smart about setting our goals. Because when we're looking at financial goals and financial decisions, looking down the line, just as we would with our future projections of our budget, looking down the line of things that we want to do is really important as well. So goal setting comes into play with your budget as well. And when we're looking at these goals, we really want them to be SMART goals, which is the acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So this is just helping us quantify our goals. So with specific, this is really the easiest part to do, because it kind of touches on the what and when part of accomplishing your financial goal. So if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to lose weight, I can just tell myself, I want to lose weight. That's not really specific. But if I told myself I'm going to walk 10,000 steps a day, and it's going to help me lose weight, that's more specific. I can track that. I can download an app on my phone, or I can get a pedometer that's going to show me how many steps that I walk per day. And if I hit 10,000, that's a specific part of my goal. So measurable as well, we want them to be measurable along with specific. So if it's specific and measurable, that's going to be something that we can really track. So how long is this going to take to complete this goal? Or how long do I want to set the goal of me walking 10,000 steps a day? Do I want to do that for 3 months? Because that's very measurable. I can see if I walk 10,000 steps a day for 3 months. I will be able to measure that. That's where those New Year's resolutions often come into play, where people just kind of set their yearly goal, but it's very vague. It has a long timeline, which is T we'll talk about later, but they're not as measurable because you're giving yourself so much leeway on that. And then we also want achievable. So if I'm talking about losing weight, I can say to myself, all right, I'm done with desserts. I'm never gonna have a dessert again. Probably not gonna happen. So achievable and realistic can go together sometimes, where it's like, can I do this, or will I do this? So we don't want to set anything impossibly high. And these all relate to finances as well, where I'm talking about taking steps. We can talk about savings. We can talk about anything else. These are just goals in general in life when you're looking at goal setting. We want it to be something that we're willing and able to work towards. And that's going to help us reach those goals a lot better. So I'm not going to sit here and say, I want to lose 100 pounds this year, because I'm not willing to put in that work, or I'm not able to do that. And then also timely. So like I said, with the New Year's resolution, we want to put a realistic timeline on that as well. So as you can see with the SMART goals, they all kind of bleed into each other, as far as we want these to be things that are going to be productive in your life. It's going to move you towards that next step. So it's almost that snowball effect, where we want to say, you know, this is going to lead to one thing, and then one thing will lead to another. And that's just going to keep rolling. And that's with finances as well. If I start saving $20 every month, eventually maybe I'll get to the point in my budget where then I can save $50 every month. And then maybe I'll get to the point where I can save $100 a month. And then as that keeps rolling over and over and over, then I'll have a pretty great emergency fund or retirement account the more that I'm able to save. So when we're setting goals, we just want to keep everything in perspective. Now we're going to look a little bit more into the budget, now that we've talked about kind of having those difficult conversations with yourself, because those are really important things to get out there in front of your budget. Because when you're sitting down to really go over the numbers and everything like that, you're going to need to be prepared to either see some numbers that you're not so crazy about in the expense column, and we're going to have to make some tough decisions about how to move past that. So when we're looking at income versus expenses, this is really what I'm talking about with that cash flow of the money coming in versus money going out. And it's really important when we start our budget journey to really inspect all the numbers